So, a general election called for July 4th, which means lots of awkward pub conversations about politics for the next 6 weeks. That's an awful lot of time. Here's how to sound smart when we kick off this weekend. So, the first question to ask, has it all come too soon? Both parties haven't necessarily finished their entire roster of candidates, and that means that despite all the vetting that usually goes on for candidates ahead of an election, there might be a fair few rushed through at the last minute. What does that mean? Well, probably some quote-unquote interesting candidates. Will both parties be able to avoid negative headlines of a rushed snap election? So do say both parties have invested a lot in their vetting. We'll really see the value of that this time. And don't say, wait, parties do vetting? The second question to ask is what happens to Reform? Now, this is the party that's been nibbling away at the Conservatives' core vote, in the polls at least, but when the rubber hit the road in by-elections, it hasn't necessarily performed. Led by Richard Tice, but really captained by Nigel Farage. Whether Reform perform will make a massive difference to that Tory vote, and it could be the difference between a bad result for the Tories or a catastrophic one. Do say, maybe Nigel Farage is more impactful as a political influencer than he is actually an MP. Don't say. Are they just UKIP? So, question number 3 that will keep you looking the smartest around the table. Can Labour break through in Scotland? It's been 9 years since the Red Roses almost wiped out right across Scotland by the SNP, but as we all know from the headlines, from Nicola Sturgeon's family's brush with the law to the defenestration of Scottish First Minister Humza Yousaf, the SNP might not be the force it used to be. Do say, well, I guess it depends on whether the SNP is seen as just a vote for independence or whether they're really seen as a governing party. That'll make all the difference. Don't say, I imagine Gordon Brown will help. The fourth question is comparing this election to the last one, and really, can Rishi hold on to Boris's voters in the red wall? Boris Johnson literally drove a bulldozer through seats that have been looked after by Labour for many, many decades. Can Rishi hold them? That's the question. More interestingly, perhaps, has Keir Starmer done enough to convince them up there that he's not just a latte-sipping Islington lawyer? Do say, Rishi Sunak needs some doorstep policies he can really sell. Old-fashioned retail politics, that's what works up there. Don't say, the red wall, the Tory MPs, haven't most of them resigned from up there by now? The fifth question, will England winning in the Euros give Rishi Sunak a boost? The election's booked in for just after the round of 16, and odds are Jude Bellingham and the boys will still be going strong. Unfortunately, the evidence doesn't necessarily suggest it will make much of a difference to the country's mood. After all, Winston Churchill lost an election in 1945, and he just won World War II. Do say, well, England fans might be riding high, but don't forget they'll all be buying pints, and when it's £7 a pop, they'll be thinking about the economy quite a lot. Don't say, yeah, plus Scotland might make it to the quarter-finals. There's more analysis like that, and indeed some more serious stuff on cityam.com and across all of our social channels.